Conservative Cat. Hi, Cities 92.9. You can find me. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. We have a very special guest joining me to talk all things anti-Semitism. It's a national nonprofit organization, Stop Anti-Semitism, and the executive director is here with me, Leora Rez. Leora, hi. Thanks so much for joining the program. We've got a lot to talk about today. So we'll just jump right in. I want to ask you, though, tell me about anti-Semitism, Stop Anti-Semitism, your organization, what you guys do, what's your platform?
Yeah. So first, thanks so much for having me on with you. I'm thrilled to talk to you and your audience. Stop Anti-Semitism is a grassroots watchdog organization that monitors essentially bias and hatred against the Jewish people and nation all across the continental United States. You can find us on stopantisemitism.org. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We have a call and text line that's monitored 24/7. So if your listeners do have incidents of anti-Semitism they'd like to report specific to your area, you can get in touch with us each and every way.
And one instance actually happened right here in Illinois, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to share this with our listeners and viewers. So Lifetime Fitness, and I'm looking at this tweet that you put out, your organization, calling out this Lifetime Fitness instructor in Illinois. This is one of her posts. Can you describe the anti-Semitism that our viewers are looking at here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this particular individual, she was submitted to us by a resident of, I'm assuming your local vicinity, and if I'm not mistaken, had communicated to us that they are in fact members of this particular gym, and either followed this individual already on social media or did follow, came across this post. But if we take a peek at what this particular woman said, she had posted to her Instagram a static post of a photo of a Hamas terrorist. We see the green headband, we see the militia army behind him. And just for everyone's edification, Hamas is a US designated terror group. And she had labeled them fearless with the caption, quote, "They are not terrorists," as the media labels them, but the world is seeing them for who they really are now, comma, freedom fighters. So let's talk about the men that she labels as, quote, fearless and freedom fighters. On October 7th, these men, or as normal people call them, monsters, infiltrated a democratic country, Israel, and proceeded to murder, bludgeon in cold blood, as well as rape countless women and young girls as young as 13 years old, as forensic science has found, as well as kidnapped over 200 people into Gaza. So these murderers, rapists, and kidnappers is what this woman refers to as fearless freedom fighters. So you have to ask yourself, would you be comfortable taking a yoga class with her? Especially not only as American, but as a Jew?
Yeah, well, and, it's kind of creepy to think that, this kind of anti-Semitism is amongst us. This is in Illinois, which is my neck of the woods, in Orland Park. I've been to this Lifetime Fitness before. I'm from the Joliet area, and I used to go up to Orland Park all the time, and I went there with a friend years ago. And it's just weird to think that this blatant anti-Semitism is just, it could be your neighbor, it could be your yoga instructor.
Yeah, absolutely. So attractive young woman, healthy, has the passion for getting fit. And I mean, I would take, again, a class with her. You take a class with her. I'm sure she's a wildly popular instructor. And then she goes home and in her spare time promotes terrorism and those who rape women. And again, girls as young as 13. And which are, again, pedophiles, disgusting, vile pedophiles. And this is who she refers to as fearless freedom fighters. So it's nauseating. I also want to alert your listeners to the fact that Hamas is also holding 5 American hostages in Gaza right now. So 5 U.S. citizens, New York, North Carolina, Connecticut, Virginia, and one other state that's escaping my mind right now. They are holding 5 U.S. Americans hostage, while this woman, an employee of Lifetime Fitness, is referring to them as fearless freedom fighters. It's
Incredible. Well, and then, yoga, where she's a female instructor, you would think that she'd be promoting women. Clearly, that's not what's going on here. If you're
No, it's
promoting,
shocking. It's shocking. It's disturbing. This is promotion of sexual abuse and violence towards women and girls. And what's even more disturbing is that we've contacted Lifetime Fitness. We're asking them, what the heck is going on? Why are you, number one, FYI, you have a grotesquely anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas, pro-terror employee in your studios. That's the first thing. Number two, why aren't you doing anything about this? And after multiple outreaches to them, absolute radio silence. So we encourage your listeners. Employers should be held also responsible for the type of hatred that they allow to go unchecked by their employees. And Lifetime needs to step up and say, no, this isn't okay. And this type of hatred and terror promotion is not welcome in our employee umbrella.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, and I hate to do this, but if it were to be the other way around, say, there was a Jewish instructor who had said something to the effect of, a racial slur against, or I don't know, something against a Islamic, Middle Eastern person. You would imagine that the employer would let that person go right away.
I have to tell you, whether the tables were turned or it had anything to do with any other marginalized minorities, such as African Americans or members of the LGBTQ community, we think that the employer would have acted versus completely ignoring the situation and trying to brush it under the rug. I have to be honest. And again, this is why it's so crucial to make these kind of incidents more aware to the general public, to speak with individuals like yourself, to make your listeners know. But again, as a woman, I'm sure you can agree with me that I would never feel comfortable taking a class with a pro-Hamas terror cheerleader like this woman.
Yeah, especially as a Jewish woman. Are you Jewish, Leora? Or
I am Jewish, yes.
Okay. See, I'd be curious if a Jewish woman, could you imagine? Yeah, I don't know, even anybody Jewish taking a course from her. But I reached out as a member of the media to Orland Park, and complete radio silence. I reached out probably about 4 or 5 times, via email, calls. Got tossed up to their general manager a couple of times, and he did not take any of my calls. So complete radio silence. You would imagine, putting out some sort of statement.
Yes. Yeah, it's absolutely shocking. I'm curious, actually, does this particular employee of Lifetime Fitness also refer to Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists as fearless freedom fighters? Because it's all under the same umbrella. We saw just now in the media this week that 3 Taylor Swift concerts were canceled by ISIS terrorist threats. So over 100,000 people are now not able, who are probably traveling all over the world to see this concert. It's all under the same umbrella. Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Qaeda terrorists that took down the 9/11 towers. Does this Lifetime employee also refer to them as fearless? I'd be curious to know.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Be sure to hit the subscribe button with me, the executive director, Leora Rez. She's with Stop Anti-Semitism, which is a nonprofit organization. You guys are completely nonpartisan.
We are, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your organization one more time.
So Stop Anti-Semitism is a grassroots watchdog organization that monitors anti-Semitism everywhere from the educational space to politics, as you had just mentioned, in both parties and everything in the middle. And in everyday society, we expose the bad actors who are trying to spread bias and hatred against the Jewish people and nation. And we make our followers aware, just like we did right now with your on your show with the lifetime employee, lifetime fitness employee that we just
Mhm.
spoken about.
Yeah. I want to chat with you about officials, representatives, and a little bit of the politics space of it all. Recently, there was a blatant absence of a lot of representatives from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. His address to Congress, he was talking about his efforts to try to combat Hamas and terrorists who have just pillaged and create really it's just carnage in Israel, and how he's been trying to defend against those attacks from the terrorist organizations. And he addressed Congress, but there were, I think, 100 or some odd Congress members who were absent from that address. And then I just wanted your thoughts. Is that one congressman, my congressman, Illinois Congressman Darren LaHood, we talked with him, and he said it was disrespectful,
Yep.
and he condemned it,
Yep.
the absence of a lot of them, including Vice President Kamala Harris. So, is your with this absence, and being now that she is the presidential nominee, possibly the Democratic presidential nominee, is her absence something of fear? Are you concerned with that? Do you think that that's going to um, move her, or that it's indicative of her providing no aid to Israel? There's been speculation, and even the congressman speculated that she's going to get rid of some Biden advisors who have been traditionally pro-Israel and pro-Israel relationship. So, do you think that an absence is concerning?
So I will say, and it's Stop Anti-Semitism's official position, that it is puzzling that Vice President Kamala Harris, who at that time was not the Democratic representative for the presidential 2024 ticket, however, she was and remains to be the Vice President of the United States, and as a role, she presides over the Senate. So when Israel's Prime Minister came to address the United States at a time when one of the greatest ally in the Middle East and a top 5 ally in the entire world has come to the United States when that country in particular is in an active state of war, and the presiding vice president over the Senate, Kamala Harris, chose to attend a sorority event instead. It is extremely puzzling and upsetting. We cannot speak for her and her campaign as to why she was not able to reschedule and adjust accordingly. But it was a huge slap in the face, not just for, again, the government of Israel, but the 7 million Jews in Israel, the hundreds of thousands of dual citizens in Israel, and then for Jewish Americans. Again, Israel's in a state of war. So put your differences aside. And we felt she should have been there. She did not, or she was not. She's not. The campaign refused to, or her administration refused to reschedule her sorority event. We can't go back in time and change that, but it was deeply puzzling and concerning. Going forward now and switching gears to the members of Congress who are adamant about boycotting Benjamin Netanyahu, what, again, we will reiterate is that you're just not boycotting him. What you are doing is boycotting the 7 million Jews he's representing, the hundreds of thousands of dual citizens that reside in Israel that are Americans, and then the millions of Americans in the United States that are caught in the crosshairs of anti-Semitism. Again, Israel is in a state of war. You put your public differences aside right now, and as a representative of the United States, you sit and you respectively listen to what one of our greatest allies comes to say, to the U.S. government. So it's an embarrassment. It's a shame. It's a spit in the face. Again, not just in the Israeli government, and prime minister's face, but in Jewish Americans, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and another thing that is in recent news as of late, and to go back to the Congress members, I think there was, and I can't remember the Congresswoman's name, she held up a sign that said Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, something to that effect.
Right, absolutely. So this is Rashida Tlaib. She's a congresswoman in Michigan. She represents one of the largest, if not the largest, Palestinian population in the United States. This is one of the hottest hot pockets of anti-Semitism coming out of the United States, with calls to just blatantly murder Jews. And the fact that she tried to create a spectacle during Israel's prime minister's speech just again showed everyone just what a hateful individual she is. I will say one of her most hateful counterparts, Ilhan Omar, she represents Minnesota's 5th. Her primary is happening on Tuesday, August 13th. So if any of your listeners have family or friends out in Minnesota, we strongly encourage them to let their family and friends know that this is an open primary. What does this mean? That Republicans, Democrats, and independents can all vote for it. So this is a great opportunity to get a rabid anti-Semitic, anti-American Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, out of office. We saw it happen already with Jamal Bowman in New York. He was thankfully defeated by George Latimer in his Democratic primary. And we just saw it happen a few days ago in Missouri in St. Louis when Wesley Bell thankfully defeated squad member Cori Bush. So we think that the momentum is there. Again, if your listeners have family or friends out in Minnesota, specifically Minnesota 5, please alert them. This is an open primary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I saw that there was a PAC, and she, of course, Cori Bush, who was unseated, blamed the PAC for her being defeated.
Of course,
Now,
of
they
course.
did spend, I mean, it was Jewish Americans, which is totally a part of the campaign process. They spent, $9 million informing the public of what she has said, having anti-Semitic sentiments. She has
Yeah,
said.
so I will say Cori Bush and just people like her, representatives like her, love to point out how much money APAC, which is the American Israeli Public, the PAC that you're referring to, Public Affairs Committee, and they love to point out how much money that APAC is spending. However, they never point out how much money Justice Democrats funds for them, how much money they receive from Council of American Islamic Relations, from CARE. They just always like to point as well, how much are the Jews trying to unseat us? And again, what AIPAC does is not just point out blatantly anti-Semitic sentiment from these members of Congress, now thankfully 2 former members of Congress starting in January, but they're wildly anti-American values and sentiments. I mean, these people are rallying for open borders. They're contributing to the economic messes in their districts. And they weren't voted out because of AIPAC. They were voted out because their constituents are sick and tired of their hyper-focused efforts on Israel and Gaza happening 5,000 miles away versus the stuff happening in their own districts. That's why they were voted out. If Cori Bush is mad that she, lost her congressional seat, she needs to look in the mirror. She needs to stop pointing at others, but she stopped focusing on her constituents. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. I do want to talk about one more thing today. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Subscribe today. You can hit the subscribe button in the lower left-hand corner, folks. Leora Rez, she's the executive director of the organization called Stop Anti-Semitism. I wanted to ask you about Kamala Harris's VP pick. This is news to Tim Walz. Now, I am from Illinois. Governor J.B. Pritzker was on a short list. He's also Jewish ethnically, I believe. And then also Josh Shapiro. He was Jewish. There were definitely political pundits out there saying that she's got to go with a Jewish vice president pick because of the pushback she's gotten from Jewish communities because of her sympathizing with Gaza and pro-Palestinian protesters in the past, because of things like not showing up to the Netanyahu address. She's got to make good with the Jewish community, so she should pick somebody who's Jewish. She did not do that. Now I'm not sure why and what all. I'm not going to try to speculate what Kamala Harris's decision was and why she made it, but it does raise the question: how does the Jewish community feel that she subverted two candidates? I mean, she would have gotten a swing state in Pennsylvania had she picked Josh Shapiro. Believe it or not, the guy's liked there. Um, and then also Governor J.B. Pritzker could have fully funded his own campaign twice over. He's the richest politician in the United States, if not the second richest. He's up there. Two benefits, but completely went around that and picked Tim Walz from the state of Minnesota, the governor there, and he kind of changed out the Minnesota flag to look like a Somalian flag. And I understand, there is a deep population there of Somalians, but he did it to assimilate to their culture, which is I don't know Somalia, if there's beef in the Middle East, as I like to say it, with the Somalians and Jewish, and there always has been. The Somalians, Syrians, Middle Eastern countries there have all gathered around Israel, and they've tried to eradicate Israel in the Jewish population. So my question really is, what do you think about Kamala Harris not picking somebody who is Jewish? Does it matter to you?
I'd love to talk about that, but just a quick note: Somalia is actually not in the Middle East; it's in Africa. It does, however, you are correct. It has a huge terrorism problem. There was a horrible war and killing of life. And Minnesota does have, I believe, a 3 to 5% Somali population status or population numbers. So I can't speak to the flag that the governor had swapped out. But I did see something. It was a blue flag, but I'm not sure on the specifics. However, I will tell you, I will tell you, I wanted to talk about Governor Shapiro. He is a wildly popular governor. He is Pennsylvania's by far most popular governor. So I, again, professionally and personally, Stop Anti-Semitism team, everyone that we talked to on the Hill and in Pennsylvania, we thought he was a shoo-in. He's young, he's articulate, whether some like to admit it or not. He is moderate. He speaks eloquently. And a lot of people were shocked when she did not speak to him. She did not pick him. However, it does speak to Kamala Harris's attempts to appease the radicals in the Democratic Party, who are not just screaming, what's happening in Gaza, because there is a war and it's horrifying what's happening. These radicals are screaming for the annihilation of Israel. And this speaks to going back to Rashida Tlaib's in Michigan and Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, their bases. And these radicals that elected these two, along with Cori Bush and AOC in New York, they are all gaining momentum. And if they are capturing the vice president's ear, that's what's so frightening to us. Again, can we speak for her and say why she didn't choose Josh Shapiro? No, we can't. I don't want to speculate. We were just as surprised at everybody else because we felt he was the strongest candidate. Again, moderate, wildly popular, intelligent, articulate, does a lot for the state, and he could have delivered a swing state for her. So was it a mistake? Possibly. But again, we can't speak for her. Or her
right. And I don't know if she just didn't choose a Jewish pick because she wanted to appease this radical group. That could have been it. Did not alienate this fringe on the Democratic Party.
Well, who knows? Listen, like you said, Illinois Pritzker, he's Jewish. Mark Kelly's wife is Jewish. Maybe she didn't want any affiliation. The governor of Minnesota, he did get elected as a moderate as his, term in offices did proceed. He became more and more to the left. Maybe that's what, her campaign wanted, to try to appease the more radical progressive voters of her party. We don't know. Do we think it's a good decision? We don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to do it for us. I appreciate you taking the time. Again, tell
Pleasure.
us where we can find out more about Stop Anti-Semitism in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Your listeners can visit us at stopantisemitism.org, on Twitter at Stop Anti-Semitism, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the same, Stop Anti-Semitism.
Well, thank you so much, Leora. And folks, you've been listening to Conservative Cat. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.